Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We seem to be having another issue with streaming the videos. For some reason, the videos are deciding that they want to work, and I think that's... Oh, here we go. We may have got in there because I've just had to reboot my computer, and hopefully we're back in there. So we've got a presentation from Sarah Atkins about living your human design.
Hi there, and welcome to my talk for Celebrating Spring. It's part of the Celebrating Spring Summit, and I am just going to share my screen here. Here we go. And I am talking to you today about how to live a life more aligned with who you truly are. I'm Sarah Atkins, and I'm a life business alchemist. So I am a wife and a mum of three. I'm an ICF accredited coach, and I'm also a human design coach, as well as being an artist in my not so spare time, obviously with having three children. And I am here. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. And just a little bit of background to me. So my story, 13 years ago, I had a successful career in the fashion industry, but I was absolutely miserable. It got to a point where I realised that I felt very trapped by the very life that I had actually built for myself. I had got myself stuck in a cycle of overworking and overgiving in a job that actually no longer fulfilled me. And I just knew that I headed towards burnout. And I think it was 2008 that actually happened. I ended up getting seriously ill, ended up being hospitalised, which forced me to take a break. I was signed off work for 12 weeks after having quite a major operation. And that gave me time to pause and reflect. And that's when I realised that I needed to make a change. But how did I actually get there? I mean, I did all the things that you do. I went to university. I studied the subject that I absolutely loved. I was doing fashion textile design. I struggled at university a little bit. I had some blips, but then everybody does. And I was driven. I thought I wanted to work in the fashion industry. And I thought it was an industry that I felt really passionate about. I loved creating. I am creative. And yeah, I had family history of my grandmother was a dressmaker for I think it was John Lewis, and she worked for Liberties for a time. My father she worked in the very first Habitat store down on Tottenham Court Road. But how did I find myself in this position? And basically, I realised now that it was years of conditioning from outside influences. I was told from a very young age that I needed to go out there, grab life by the hands. I could make whatever I wanted happen. And, you know, I ended up in burnout because, again, I had conditioning behaviours that I was brought up with, that can't carry on. So even when things were tough, like, you just have to get on with it. And I was also driven to create success. And not consciously, it was just part of the narrative that I grew up with. Go to school, do well, create success. You can, I was driven by that feeling that I wanted to make my family proud. And what changed? Well, in 2010, this little person made his way into my life. He's my eldest son. He will be 11 this year. And he changed my world. Now, for any of you that are parents, you will know that it is a massive change, massive shift in just your energy, in terms of like just your whole life is turned upside down. And this was a massive, massive catalyst for change for me. I had this little person who's looking to me for everything to meet his needs. And I realized that I wanted to set an example for him. I didn't want to have success at the cost of being happy. I wanted to show him that he could create a life that he loved, create a life that he wanted to be happy in. So I had to reflect on that. Becoming a mum actually made me feel invincible. It's like I gained superhero powers. All of a sudden I could survive on like very little to no sleep. But I also, like I said, I realised that I wanted to set an example. It's all very well being able to be there for this person, but I wanted to be that role model for him. So 3 steps, and I shifted my focus from being successful to being happy. I took some time to check in with myself. Being on maternity leave, it allowed me a little bit of that time to do that and identify, like, what do I really want? And when was the last time you actually sat down and asked yourself that? I then allowed myself to reconnect with my why, what drives me, what excites me, what, make me happy. When was the last time I was happy? What was I doing? That kind of thing. And obviously my son was a very big part of my new why. And then I took a risk going back to work after 8 months of maternity leave. I took a massive leap of faith. I took a huge risk. I quit my job. I had nothing to go to, but it actually paid off. Now, my journey to today has been far from linear. It very rarely is, and I certainly didn't do it by myself. So in the last 11 years since Ben arrived, I've had 2 more career changes, 2 more children, in fact, and I started my own business. And 2 years ago, we relocated our family out of London, which is where they were all born, and we relocated to the beautiful Cotswolds, which is where we live now. Throughout that time, I have worked with coaches, one-to-one and on various different group programs. I've ended up retraining twice, and I've now gotten certified as an ICF accredited coach. And I also discovered human design. So I would like to introduce you to human design. And what it is it's a relatively new science. It's the science of differentiation. And it is actually a synthesis of ancient wisdoms, including astrology, I Ching, chakra system, the Kabbalah system, and it's combined with modern sciences of human biology, genetics, and quantum physics. But where did it come from? So there was a gentleman, he's no longer this, unfortunately, but he, Ru Uruhu, channeled this whole this whole system during an 8-day mystical experience. Apparently it's very deep meditation where he entered a voice and he downloaded all the information, and he was on the island of Ibiza in January 1987. He then dedicated the rest of his life to teaching it, to helping people understand it, and it is quite a complex system. But in the words of Ra Uru, human design does not require that you believe in anything in particular. It is neither stories nor is it philosophy. It is a concrete map of the nature of your being, and it is a mapping of your genetic code. But how does it work? So using your birth data, what human design does is it takes a snapshot of the planetary positions, the astrology, both on the day you were born and 88 days before your birth. Now, the reason behind this is we all know from a physics point of view and a human biology point of view that we are, as humans, made up of atoms. And those atoms, we are literally, when they've broken down the elements within the human body, those atoms are made up of the same stuff that the stars and the planets are made. We are literally made of stardust. Now, it stands to reason, and they have actually scientifically proven this as well in quantum physics, but each planet in our solar system, and there are certain stars as well, including the moon, that emit what they call neutrino streams, and these are tiny, tiny microscopic particles of stardust energy. And when planets move, those neutrino streams move, and as we are born, those neutrino streams, those planetary alignments, affect our genetic code when we are born. Now, I won't go massively into the science because I'd be here all day, but it is no coincidence that there are 64 gates in the human design system that relate to the Chinese I Ching system, and there are also 64 codons in the genetic code, of which we have 46 pairs of chromosomes in our code. But when they map to the genetic code, there are 64 different codons. I will leave that with you. Think of that what you will. Now, anybody can download their human design chart, and if you are curious, you can download your own chart at www.mybodygraph.com. And when you do that, you'll be faced with what they call a body graph, which is, there's a lot of information on your body graph, but I am going to share with you the first 3 steps, the foundations of how you can start to understand your own human design. So the first key information is your type, and there are 5 types in the human design system, which I will take you through. The next step is strategy. Each type has a strategy that they use in order to navigate and interact with the world around them and the other people around them. And then step 3 is your authority. Now, your authority, there are 6 centers that help you identify what your authority are, and you will have your own authority. And tapping into this authority will help you to make powerful decisions that are right for you. Now, taking you on to the types, type 1 is the manifestor. The manifestor is energetic and driven, and they tend to be going at 100 miles an hour. They may feel impatient with other people because they get frustrated, or they might get annoyed because other people around them can't keep up with how fast that they move. Now, out of the 5 types, manifestors are the only type that are actually designed to initiate action. However, they don't have sustainable energy. They are not designed to work long periods of time. 9 to 5 jobs don't tend to suit them, and nor does physical labor. They are great at ideas and initiating the ideas, but not necessarily completers. So they may be really good in like project management or idea generation, but they may not be very good. They tend to have lots of things that they start but don't always finish. Manifestors get frustrated or can get angry because they come up against resistance from the other types. The reason for this is because everything that they do, all their ideas, actually can have a massive impact on the people around them. And the other types feel a bit uneasy. It can make them feel insecure. So for that reason, a manifestor's strategy is to inform. It is to keep the people around them informed of what they're doing. Now, that can be quite tricky for a manifestor, especially a manifestor child, because they don't want you to say no. So therefore, they will keep their ideas to themselves and they will just go ahead and do it anyway. But what they will find is when they learn how to inform, they will find that the resistance kind of dissipates because other people feel more comfortable once they know what is going to happen. Type 2 is the generator, also known as the alchemist. Now, generators have a tremendous amount of sustainable life force energy. That's because one of the 9 energy centers is the sacral center, which all generators have defined in their body graph. Generators make up around 36% of the world's population. They are the creators, the doers, the builders, and they're the only type in the human design system that is designed to do the work. However, A generator must find the right work and right opportunities in order to feel fulfilled in what they do. They have to, when they commit their sacral energy, they have to follow through. So if they commit to the wrong things, then they can find themselves feeling drained of energy. Now, generators are actually magnetic. So if they follow their gut, trust their gut feelings, they will find themselves in the right places, which means they will attract the people and the right opportunities to them. Now, the generator strategy is to wait and respond, which can feel a bit frustrating if you're not used to it, but you need to wait for all the projects or the opportunities. You need to trust those things, the right things will be drawn to you. And when you commit your energy to the right people and the right project, then that can literally make your whole energy just sing, and you will have boundless amounts of energy reaching satisfaction levels. Type 3 is the manifesting generator, otherwise known as the money gen. Also a bit of a time bender. Now, the manifesting generator actually has elements of both the manifestor and the generator. They make up around 35% of the world's population, and they are uniquely capable of getting more done than most people in the world. And they are typically have got several projects going at the same time. They'll be spinning a lot of plates because they don't like standing still. They are constantly juggling or running from one project to the other. However, they will be more productive if they are able to channel that energy into one project at a time. So the manifesting generator is to initiate. So they have that manifesting energy. They are able to initiate any project. But there is a fundamental step that makes them different between the manifestor and the generator. They need to get their taste of the action. They need to get a moment of truth. They have the opportunity to test something out, to see if it feels right for them. If it doesn't, then they are able to pull out and move on to the next topic or the next project or the next person. Once they are committed, if they get their moment of truth, get their taste of the action, and they decide it is right for them, then they are able to respond and they commit that sacral energy to get the things done. Type 4 is the projector. Now, completely different to the first three types, projectors are actually non-energy type. They will struggle to keep up with the high energy types and can be prone to burnout if they try. Now, just as a quick aside, I have 3 children, as I mentioned at the beginning, and all 3 of my children are different types. I have a generator son who is a typical generator, very similar to myself and my husband. My middle son is a manifesting generator who is very willful, gets very frustrated and doesn't like being told no. And then my young son is the projector. And he does try to keep up with his brothers at the moment. He's only 4. But we really notice that he needs more naps. He needs more quiet time than my other 2 children there are like Duracell bunnies, they will keep going. But he definitely needs that time out and he needs some alone time. Now, projectors are actually designed to manage, guide and direct others. They're quite often the line manager. They're quite often seen as the expert, and they're designed to be the expert in a particular field. So they're quite often specialists in a particular area. And they have a natural ability to harness the energy of the other types, hence they can be that manager sort of position. And they can direct them in the best way that uses their energy. They can be perceived by others as being lazy, not because they actually are, but because their strategy in life is to wait for the invitation. Now, that doesn't always necessarily mean that they've literally got to wait for somebody to invite them to something. Those invitations can be energetic invitations. So, for example, if a projector gets into a room, they may stand around looking around that room and they may get a nod or somebody gesturing. That is an invitation that invites them to go over and talk. Now, like I said, projectors are designed to be experts. They're quite very knowledgeable about a particular area or a field of expertise. If they try to share their expertise without being invited, they can feel frustrated because they don't feel heard. They won't necessarily be recognized for that expertise, and that can push them into their non-self, and they can experience a certain element of bitterness. So wait for that invitation. And then the last of the 5 types, you've got the reflector. This is the calibrator for society, and they're extremely rare. They represent less than 1% of the world's population and is the rarest of all the human design types. They are truly unique. They're unusually sensitive because in their body graph, they will have none of their centers defined. They will have no colors on their body graph. And a reflector needs to be in the right place with the right people in order for them to experience true happiness. Because they have no definition in their centers, they are highly sensitive and highly empathic to the energies of the other types around them. They may come across as being innately wise. There may be a certain aura about them that people will ask them for advice. They will ask them for their reflections, their ideas, and they only get a true sense of themselves in the reflection of others. Now, this can feel quite overwhelming for those reflectors that don't realize that who they are and how they are meant to be. And their strategy is actually to wake 28 days. They are very connected to the moon and the lunar cycles. So their decision-making process in terms of their strategy does follow the lunar cycle. So they may have an idea or they may have an opportunity, but they need to wait those full 28 days to get the real fullest sense of what feels right for them. So if you have experienced any of the following, so you might have ever felt overwhelmed with all the ideas or stuck in this stage of analysis paralysis, you may have found yourself searching for answers outside of yourself to solve your problems. If you've ever felt invisible or not felt heard, you might feel out of control of your situation, then you may be out of alignment with any one of the 9 energy centers in your body. Now, for me, the real transformation came about when I started recognizing where I was out of alignment. So I started digging deeper into my own human design chart and looking at my energetic centers that were defined and undefined, the gates that I had defined, and what access I had to my own energy. But actually, what the frick is alignment? And what does it look like? Like, how do we know when we're out of alignment? How do we know what it looks like? So for me, and this is just a general kind of thing, alignment is trusting yourself, even when it doesn't make true logical sense, making yourself and your energy levels your priority, choosing your creative flow over hustling and overgiving, over driving and trying to do things. It's about believing and trusting wholeheartedly that your success is inevitable and being perfectly imperfect. So embracing those quirks, those shadow parts, and learning from your failures. Alignment is not judging yourself or your actions as being good or bad or ugly or whatever, no judgment. It's not about focusing on all of the accomplishments or focusing on doing all of the shoulds rather than prioritizing what energizes you. It is not hustling. It's not trying to make things happen. It's not forcing your way into success or feeling like you're swimming against the tide. And it isn't about suppressing the negative emotions or the negative feelings that you have just in case they lower your vibration. It's about really stepping into your true self and being present. This is how understanding my human design changed my life and my business. So I realized that my strategy is that I'm designed to respond. I'm not here to initiate things or force things to happen. And actually, I can reflect on times where I have tried to force things to happen. And they've not turned out so well. If you remember back to the burnout situation that I was in 12 years ago. Authority. Now, my authority is my emotional center, my solar plexus. I need to have, and I experience, an emotional wave. I need to ride that wave and not make any decisions when I'm at the peak or at the base of my emotional wave. I need to wait and I need to find clarity before I make any decisions that are right for me. And I've learned to trust myself. I've learned that trusting my intuition and really just learning how to pause and just trusting that I am magnetic, I will attract the right people and the right opportunities to myself. Ultimately, you are unique and you already have all of the tools you need inside of you. You just need to learn how to use them. I can help you understand your human design, and I can help you identify your energetic flow and learn how to work with it. Now, don't just take my word for it. I've done it with my own business and my own life, but I've also worked with clients. So, for example, Claire here, the process of coaching through human design actually helped provide her with so many light bulb moments. She found it really fascinating to consider how she thinks or behaves when she's in alignment versus when she is out. And she was able to recognize and reflect and actually get herself back into alignment when she recognized those signs and is able to now do that herself. And then I've got my other wonderful client, Steph. And by mapping her human design chart, we looked at how to use her unique design to her strengths, really emphasize on those strengths, and then working on removing those blocks and all those past conditioning things that she was taking on that were blocking her own energetic flow. Now, if you wanted to find out more, you can get in touch with me. You can drop me an email at coaching@sarahatkinsdesign.com. Or you can check out my website at sarahatkinsdesign.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at sarah.m.atkins. Thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to hearing if you've got any questions, and I will catch you in the Q&A session after this.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. I'm now camping in my son's bedroom where I've got better Wi-Fi signal. So yes, I'm here.
Good. That's great. I'm glad you managed to make it by the end of the session. So that's really good. I'm not sure if anybody's got any questions for you, but I'd just like to say that was fascinating.
Good.
I'm not really sure what I'm going to have to do. Go to the bodygraph.com because I really am going to find out what I am, because at the first one I'm like yeah that's me, and then the second one like this one's me, and the third one, oh, this is a little bit me as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where you kind of realize that, because we all kind of have this, actually I really like that one, and so when I first did mine, I loved the sound of the manifesto. It's like, oh yeah, I think I'm one of them. It's the same as you, because I was always told that I'd make anything happen, and I have a tendency to make things happen. But actually, it's not that. It's that I have other energies in. So what people have is people will pick up energies from you. So I, for example, the extra layers to human design is I'm actually a 3-5 profile, which makes me an experiential learner, is the line 3 of my profile. The line 5 is actually, it's like a coach. Another name for it is the coach, or a heretic. Now, the energy of that is that people will pick up where I am. People think I can fix anything. People think, I don't think I can, but that's the energy that other people will pick up from me. So I have to be very careful. This is where my strategy comes in, about making sure I'm only responding to the things that really kind of light me up and feel good to me. Otherwise, I get stuck into that trying to fix everyone, trying to force everything to happen, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, that I can imagine that. Yeah, we've had a question from Laura about how to relate this to the business, and she thinks she's a manager.
Yes, so manifesting generators have several projects at the same time, otherwise known as the plate spinners. They'll be juggling loads of things. So they have a tendency to want to do all of the things. So one of my clients, who's actually an artist or a designer, she is a manager, and she really struggled with starting loads of projects and not actually following through with any of them, because she would do a little bit of one and then do a little bit of another and then do another little bit and just never actually finishing anything. So what we did with her is that so when she was like goal setting or planning, she was trying to plot out her goals like really far in advance, which doesn't work for a manager at all, because they need to get that taste of the action. So what I'll do with her is she has almost like a pick and mix. So I don't limit her, but she's limited herself to 3 projects to work on at a time in a quarter. And then she has like a list of tasks, and it goes down even further into like a weekly thing, so that each task she's planned out means that she is making those incremental gains, but she has this ability to kind of switch in and out of what her energy feels good in on any particular given day, but she's constantly making progress in each of those. Yeah. So that's kind of a manager energy, and I'm always quite envious of the manager, because they have that manifesting ability to initiate projects, but they also have that generator energy to kind of really follow and complete, as long as they are focused, because they will be, one of their classic traits is that they tend to skip steps. They focus more on the outcome and they forget the bits in between. So quite often they end up having to go back and redo things, which makes it a bit frustrating for them. But yeah, my middle son is a manifesting generator, and it's funny when you see the dynamics from a family point of view, and you can do it just I've got friends actually that are manifesting generators, and I can recognize that trait now in them straight away, and it's about trying to rein themselves back in a little bit, not to stop them from doing what they want to do, but just kind of gain a little bit of focus. And yes, I do readings on them.
That's interesting, because I think when we looked at it, I think, yes, I am probably a manager myself, and that, yeah, I'm guilty as charged on some of those things. But my husband I'm pretty sure my husband's the last one. I can't remember what that was, but yeah, he's the 28 days thing. So can you imagine how that goes down sometimes with us?
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting conflicts. And my husband is generator, but he is he's a different profile to me. So he's a 6-2 profile, which means he is like a role model. He automatically knows, and he's also got a defined crown and agenter, which means he has a consistent way of thinking through problems. He just has this consistent way of, everything's very logical, everything's very methodical, and he automatically knows the right way to do things, which means I drive him absolutely bonkers, because he could tell me the right way to do something, but it's not going to mean a thing to me, because I need to try it and test it out myself and get it wrong. And because I'm the experimenter, I need to do that. And it's funny when you then start understanding that and actually accepting those parts of yourself, because I used to feel like I was a failure a lot, because it's like, well, everybody else can do it right first time, or everybody else is really unorganized, but I can be a little bit scatterbrained, like of an organized chaos. And I used to think I was a bit flaky because I'd flip between things, but that's just the experimental part of me. So, but embracing that and really kind of understanding your process of how you do things, just such a game changer with how you then start showing up.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think because I do have lots of projects, and I was just talking earlier about the fact that, setting up this as an event manager when COVID hit, and I was like, right, you can't do any events. That's great. Take some time out now and back off. And what have I done? I've gone and organised an online event. So it's like, yeah, I can't help it. I just have to. And I think it's really fascinating what you say about, if I could see the bits that I have to do, like your friend does with putting certain things in within this quarter, that's all I'm allowed to do.
Yep.
then yeah, I might be able to get myself under control a little bit better.
Yeah, well, you're not meant to plan too far ahead. And it's funny because loads of business coaches always say, plan out your year in ahead, do this, do that, da, da, da. And I've worked with business coaches and I could never understand why it just didn't work for me. Now I know.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's any more questions in the chat box, but yeah, it's fascinating. So you say that you do readings. I guess that's is that like just a one-to-one? Do you go on your chart and then you let us know where we are on that?
Yeah, so what I do with the one-to-ones is it's a 90-minute session and we go really deep into obviously beyond just what I've shared today. So it's beyond the type, strategy and authority. And we actually go and look into your individual centers. So there are 9 centers, very loosely connected to the chakra system. And the reason that is different is because I think it's in 1781, the human body or the human psyche, I suppose, transitioned or evolved from a 7-centered being into a 9-centered being, where it's basically, instead of just the heart chakra, you have the heart center and then you have the G center, which is that sense of self, that direction that you have. And you have your heart center, which is very related to your will. And it's statistically quite rare to have your heart center defined. And those people have an iron will. They literally, whatever they put their heart into, they can make it happen. And not very many people actually have that energy, although we are brought up believing that we do. And then the other center is the solar plexus, which is split. So in the chakra system, you have the solar plexus center. In human design, you have the solar plexus and the splenic center, whereas the solar plexus is very much related to the emotions. The splenic center is more related to survival, and it's very primal energy, and it's very tapped into your intuition and what feels good and those sorts of things. So we go into those energetic centers, and we also look at channels, because in between each center you may have some colored, you may do your body graph, you'll notice that some of them are colored channels that connect them, and they create an additional circuitry in your body graph, which is how you kind of show up either subconsciously or consciously, in terms of what you have access to in energetics. And the thing is, there is no good or bad with the defined or the undefined. Where you are open and undefined, or the white squares, is where you have the opportunity to learn the most, because you'll be absorbing energy from other people and your environment and stuff. So that's where you will have the potential to become very wise in those areas. Where you're defined is just where you have a consistent way of showing up. So for example, I mentioned in the presentation that I have an emotional authority. So my solar plexus is defined. I have a consistent way of showing up emotionally. I'm not very spontaneous, but my husband, however, is undefined there, and he is very empathic. So quite often he is subject, or he will pick up on the emotions of people around him, and he needs to take some time to kind of separate out, like, is this my emotion or is this somebody else's? Like, where is this coming from? Because he can be prone to sort of outbursts sometimes. Like, he'll be really calm, like in his natural state by himself, he'll be really calm, cool and collected. But if he's in an emotive situation or with somebody who's very, very strongly emotional, that can really impact on him. So it's just understanding, it helps you to understand how to interact, not just with yourself, but with people around you. And it's been amazing for helping me sort out some family dynamics. Because I've got 3 children and they're all different types. So, and it's just helping me to understand how they are. And I'm very conscious that I was subject to a lot of conditioning as I was growing up. And it's funny because I've done my own family. So both my parents are projectors, non-energy types, whereas my brother is a manifesting generator and I'm a generator. We ran our parents ragged. They must have just been absolutely exhausted. because we just have
Oh,
boundless amounts of energy,
yeah,
and just reflecting on that very thing is like,
yeah,
oh, that way that used to happen.
yeah.
Just, yeah, it makes so much sense.
That's fabulous. It's really fascinating. I could listen to you all day. I really could. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have a go at that, because I need to get, because I'm not sure whether you've seen any of the presentation that I've done, but I'm working with colour, and I
Yeah.
get this real urge to work with the lime green, which is between the solar plexus and the heart. And
Ah,
I don't know where this is coming from. It's really fast. It's really getting to me that it's more of a confidence of heart rather than a confidence of self.
so yeah, that might be the G center, which is
Mm.
very connected. It's about lovability, direction, and that sense of self. So if you are open in that center, you may be drawn to people with a defined G center. So I am defined in the G center, and it's funny because a lot of my clients that come to me are open there. So they get a sense of self from being with other people. However, they can also pick up on the direction of other people. So they may find themselves being carried along and get caught up in what they think other people's desires are. So, for example, if a parent had a defined G center and they had a child with an open G center, and their parent says, "Oh, you are this person," that open G center will start to believe that, rather than actually getting that space and following their own authority.
Because I'm like your husband. I'm a massive empath. I take on other people's energy and then wonder why I'm sad, and there's
Yeah.
nothing's happened to me. But I realise then I've been around someone who is sad, and I've taken that on. They've gone. They're up, all right, and
Yeah, and left you behind with it. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it's fascinating. So really, thank you very much for doing that, and I'm definitely going to sort of look into that even more. So if we've no more questions, we can just leave it at that. But if you are able to bob into any of the rooms afterwards, there might be somebody might want to ask you a question in there.
Yeah,
So
we'll
go on another break, and we'll be back at 5 o'clock next session.
That's great. Thanks, Rachel.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.